I've always had the opinion that Strand Warlock was just Walmart Voidlock, but this build completely changed my opinion. If you like the idea of safe, low-risk plays, get out of jail free cards, and being able to apply consistent pressure on the enemy team, as well as being the perfect enabling teammate, this is the build for you. This build presents a decently high ceiling of mastery, and will reward you for the time you put into it with unique plays that are only possible on Strand Warlock. I know, the channel was starting to look like a Hunter only channel, so I'll be back on Warlock for a bit. Maybe I'll even play some Titan as the season draws out. The core of this build relies on applying pressure and disrupting play. The concept that this build seeks to achieve is to play extremely safe using high damage team shots and threadlings to apply an immense amount of pressure, with Unravel to stop health regeneration, while utilizing healing rifts and Weavewalk to stay extremely safe. This build excels in competitive survival, as it's extremely life efficient and can break up slow games that happen every so often in comp, but also, it's just as viable in other game modes. I'll start by telling you what's needed to make the build work, then give you weapon loadout recommendations, follow up with an in-depth playstyle guide with specific play-by-play tips and tricks, and then tell you about specific matchups and weaknesses of the build. Make sure to join my Discord server if you have any questions. Let's get into it. This build is based around the Swarmer's exotic boots, which enable threadlings to unravel opponents for 7.5 seconds, preventing their health from regenerating, as well as spawning a few threadlings whenever you shoot or throw a tangle. To make threadlings consistently over the course of the game, we'll use the Threadling Grenade and combine it with our two aspects, Weavewalk and Weaver's Call. Weavewalk is the key to this build, generating perched threadlings and providing movement and an extra safety net. This ability is quite complicated, so I'll get to how it works in the playstyle section of this video. Weaver's Call can be useful to add extra threadlings to the field when popping a rift, as well as releasing any perched threadlings that you might have. For Fragments, there's only 3 slots, so we need to pick carefully. Thread of Continuity extends the duration of the Unravel effect from Swarmers, Thread of Evolution enhances our threadlings, and lastly, Thread of Propagation grants our Strand weapons unraveling rounds, as well as adding the much needed plus 10 strength for higher Weavewalk uptime. Speaking of stats, when building into your armor, you'll want to pay close attention to stat distributions. Make sure to use a tool like D2 Armor Picker to achieve the best results. In order from highest to lowest priority, you'll want Recovery for Rift regeneration, Discipline for Grenade regeneration, Strength for Weavewalk uptime, followed by Resilience, Intellect, and Mobility. Keep in mind that Needlestorm is possibly the worst super in the entire game, being unable to kill a bubble or a well consistently, while also having the world's worst tracking at close range or on in-air targets. Needlestorm struggles with taking out roaming supers or even just a normal person that's jumping. Let's move on to weapons. I've got 2 weapon loadout recommendations for this build, and the theme of these loadouts is to provide high burst damage with team shots to apply pressure along with your threadlings, as well as promote consistent, safe, and conservative play. The first loadout is Traveler's Chosen paired with Igneous Hammer. Traveler's Chosen is perfect for the build, as you can keep a very high stat count on Surplus with 3 melee charges, and gain more ability energy with Gathering Light, as well as being able to unravel opponents with Osmosis and Thread of Propagation. Igneous Hammer is the best 120 in the game, and hitting 2 headshots and a Threadling can score a kill with the high burst damage that 120 hand cannons can deliver. The second loadout I'd recommend is the classic Sturm and Drang combo. The dynamic duo fits the theme of the build as well as giving you the lethality of Sturm Overcharge. Although this doesn't have a way to trigger Thread of Propagation, it still checks the same boxes that the first loadout achieves. You might notice that none of these loadouts use a special weapon, which is highly unusual for me. The reason being that simply having something that could potentially one-shot kill in your hand can make you go for more risky plays, which is something that we want to avoid here. Just the fact that you aren't running something like a shotgun or a fusion makes you far less likely to run in and do something dumb. Just remember the core principles of the loadout are safety, pressure, and consistency. Taking 50-50 shotgun fights is not something we want to do. With those core principles in mind, let's get into the playstyle guide. The hardest part of this build to get used to is Weavewalk. If you've never used Weavewalk before, it's an ability with incredible play potential that rewards good game sense but punishes panic usage with a slow and vulnerable animation. Weavewalk has 2 conditions that must be met in order to activate it. First, you'll have to be in the air to start it, as it counts as an air dodge ability. Secondly, you'll need a minimum of 1 out of your 3 full melee charges. Upon activating Weavewalk, you'll enter a ghost form where you'll be in third person, unable to shoot or interact with objects, but you'll gain a massive amount of damage resistance, being able to tank the majority of certain death scenarios other than supers. while you're in Weavewalk, you'll passively generate threadlings and drain your melee energy. Weavewalk will end and you'll return back to normal in 5 scenarios. First up, you can manually end your Weavewalk by either placing a rift down or activating the ability again while you're in the air. You'll be forced to exit your Weavewalk, however, if you run out of ability energy in your melee, get suspended, or get frozen. Weavewalk is a bit tricky to get working consistently. Just remember that you can only use it while in the air. Usually I'll do a little hop off the ground and press it right away to go in and out of the Weavewalk. Although it's a bit finicky at first, Weavewalk has some pretty unique and practical applications. During Weavewalk, you gain an extremely high amount of damage resistance, and using it to navigate through highly contested areas and out of dangerous situations is key. Just make sure that you pop it as soon as you think any amount of danger could happen. Waiting too long can make you an easy kill if you get caught in the animation. As a general rule of thumb, in any situation where I would be waiting in cover to regenerate my health, I instead wait with Weavewalk active, giving me third-person field of vision to gain more information and nullifying any push that an opponent could make. Weavewalk is also great for getting out of pinches. Whenever I see that I've got my opponents surrounding me on my radar, I can pop Weavewalk to safely retreat back to my team. Not a lot of people know how to play against Weavewalk, so most people will instinctively waste special ammo and other abilities on it. Due to that, I'll use it to cross sniper lanes and other highly contested areas. Using it here and there just to see around corners is also a good idea. Just make sure to use it often to generate extra threadlings as you move around the map. In terms of rift usage, I usually save my rifts to exit Weavewalk with. People typically like to chase you when you Weavewalk away, so exiting with the rift grants the safety net of the healing itself as well as the threadlings that it spawns, releasing a normal amount from the rift plus however many you generate while you're in Weavewalk. Yeah, bro? Can I put a rift on this guy? I can. Grenade usage is relatively straightforward with this build. Throwing your threadling grenades around to apply pressure and give people something to shoot at. Just keep in mind that hitting a single threadling on a player will keep them out of the loop for 7.5 seconds, so throwing them to aid with a primary fight is a good idea. Now on to counterplay and situational swaps. There's 2 situational swaps that I use for this build. The first being a Precision Instrument Igneous Hammer, which I swap to whenever I'm fighting Overshield Titans. Precision Instrument allows me to 3-tap through those Overshields, as well as put in a bit more damage and in turn extend the range a little bit. The second swap is the standard Conditional Finality swap whenever I need to kill a well or a bubble. Now for the weaknesses and when to take off the build. Weavewalk is easily countered by 2 things, Suspend and Freeze. Either of these effects can completely remove you from Weavewalk. Against Hunters with the Suspend Dive, Titans with the Suspending Shield, or Osmiomancy Warlocks, I'd recommend just taking the build off. This build also isn't great for CQC engagements, so on maps like Anomaly and Endless Veil, it might not be a good idea to use. This build excels the most when you're able to make space between you and your opponents. If you enjoyed or found this video useful, make sure to leave a like and subscribe so I know I should make more content like this. If you want to see any more of my content, check out this documentary I made on the history of Last Wish speedruns. Thanks for watching. Bye!